Okay. So, I mean, this is the kind of like not chemistry, that's probably too strong of a word, but that's just how it is with like between friends. When you think of something, it's usually quite intimidating or it seems a bit much, like, oh, we have this big thing we've got to do and we have to act so professional. And then it just turns out like, it's either going to shit or it's just going to be like kind of natural. And I think that's the best flow, honestly.
I think for us, we just say sink or swim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was an easier way of saying that.
My
So, what's your name? Where are you from?
name is Bill. I'm from Massachusetts in the United States of America. Do not hold it against me.
My name is Stacey. I'm from the UK. So, yeah, across the pond and back again. We came up with the name a few days ago, didn't we? It was mainly your idea. And I immediately said, do you know what? We're going to put that at the top of the list. It sounds like the best one we've had so far.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, actually, I think the UK says it more than America because we're like that. We say the Atlantic Ocean, we think big, but it's always been to me across the pond. So it was just something normal to
I
say.
mean, it makes sense as well because, like, geographically, obviously, across the pond, that's what people say.
Yeah, one of the best too. I really like it. In fact, sometime what I want to do is I have this book, I have to find it, and it's called Bob's Your Uncle. And yep, and it has all the sayings from over there in the UK, all the special sayings in it. And I bought it and I instantly loved it the first time I read it.
That's a saying I'm familiar with, yeah. Do you know, thinking back, probably, I don't think it's quite a decade yet since we first met, but like, oh, it has to be nearly at that point. But I remember you saying you tuned into a load of the BBC classic shows back in the day. How did you manage to do that? Remind me.
Oh, well, that actually was easy. We have PBS over here, Public Broadcasting System,
Yeah.
and they play all kinds of different shows on their stations, and they ask for money because there are no commercials. So what they love to do is they love to get the most of the comedy shows from across the sea, over there in the UK, like Are You Being Served? Um, I try to think of some of the other ones. What's her name? Keeping Up Appearances.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Mrs. Bucket.
yes, Mrs. Bucket. But
Richard!
they also though played Doctor Who,
Okay.
and Doctor Who was my favorite. So what I used to do when I was in high school, I saved up some money and bought a little TV, and oh my goodness, it was maybe uh, 5 inch by 4 inch screen. No anything big, and I put it up in my room. And I was smart. I got permission from my father to splice into the antenna. you know, didn't want it to degrade and him to find out and say, "What are you doing?" But anyway, I did that, and there was a PBS station up in New Hampshire because we're near the New Hampshire border here, and Doctor Who came on, and that's when I fell in love with it. All the old ones, Tom Baker mostly,
Oh, that's really cool.
and of course we have Masterpiece Theater and other shows.
So, did you like watch EastEnders on BBC, or did you never hear of that one?
I've heard of EastEnders. I've never watched it, but I have heard of it, and I've heard of it more lately with technology, with the internet, and the way cable stations are now. You are a very lucky person. You didn't have to grow up with only three channels, and all of them being news. So
Yeah, I mean, out of all of the soap operas we have in the UK, there's only one I watch, and that is EastEnders. So I'll accept any criticism on that one, but unfortunately, it is the one I watch.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I
In
have heard of it, and every time I see it advertised on one of the apps that we have now through Roku. You have Roku over there, right?
I've heard of it. I've never used it though.
Never used it? Okay. Um, well, they advertise different channels, and one of them, and I'm going to forget the name of it though, was a channel to be able to watch shows from the UK that you can't normally get. And they would use that as a sample for one of the shows that you could get if you subscribed. Nice show.
So let's move on. One question I wrote down, because you've been in art class for a year or two, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been in a year and a half. I've got one more semester left actually.
Yeah, yeah. You told me all sorts of things about it, and it sounds really interesting, to be honest. How does it feel going into an art class where there's quite a lot of people around you that are significantly younger? It like not in an offensive way, but how's that been for you? Has it been like distracting, or
Right.
has it been interesting?
At first, I didn't know what to think. Every single class you go into, you have to the very first day introduce yourself and say why you're there.
Like an
And
icebreaker.
yeah, exactly. And my why you there was at first long, but by the time I got to the last class, I just said, I'm trying to get my mojo back.
That's brilliant.
Because it's a semi long story, but I fell out of the way for a long, long time. So the old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I basically lost a lot of it. So going back, I was hoping to be able to sharpen my skills and get them back up at least to the way they were when I was in high school. So um, just talking with all of them, it was kind of anxious time because you're thinking, what are these kids going to think about me? And so eventually, though, things turned around and I used it to my advantage. We would joke, and when we joked or someone said something about age, I would turn around, go, hey, 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 and they would
Yeah,
start chuckling because of how old I am, or something like
rude.
that. They'll turn around to one of the professors who's younger than me and call him prehistoric. So I have to chime in and say, if he's prehistoric, what am I?
How rude.
Right?
You'd have to put them to rights.
Yeah, definitely. But
But maybe they can learn from you as well. I think that's an important piece to consider. So, having gone to art class a little bit later on, what has it done for you personally? Has it helped your mental health? Because I don't know whether you want to share too much on it, but I know on occasion you've kind of struggled with mental health and things like that. So, has it helped in any way, or do you learn anything from it?
well, the way I got to go to college or thought of it was I started to pick up my drawing again, and I told my psychiatrist, yeah, I do have a psychiatrist. I tell you, anybody who's out there, therapy is not bad. You don't need to be a nut to get therapy. And if it gets to the point where you're seeing a psychiatrist, I mean, they're just as good, sometimes better, of course, because they had more schooling. But I was telling him at the time, that I was using drawing when I started to get, anxious or um, just wanted to straighten myself out. Like if I'm not feeling right, I would like go out on the porch, grab a sketchbook and do it. And he asked me, he said, now is this drawing or is this doodling? I said, no, drawing. And I explained how in high school. And he turns around and he says, You ever think of going to college for that? And I was like,
Ah, so that's where it started almost.
yeah. I was like, hmm. So that's where the ball got rolling. And then I turned around and I got feedback from family and, asked them, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And I have a sister who's always behind me 100%. And she turned around and she was like, go for it. So when she said that, I was like, okay.
And you should tell everybody as well. You got onto the dean's list.
3 times so far.
Yeah, that's really good. So I'd like to congratulate you on that as well. I know I've already said it during our personal chats, but yeah, it's a really good thing. Well done.
Thank you. I'm hoping to do the fourth semester the same way. I know I won't make honor roll, but that's fine. As long as I make it, then it's a big feather in my cap to have been on the dean's list every single semester being at the college.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a massive thing, and it's such a positive experience to have, and to come away with that, being able to say, "Oh, I got onto the dean's list," like that's amazing.
Yeah, it's
But I mean, like, sorry, just going back to the psychiatrist element, like, there shouldn't be such a stigma about it because I've heard it from a lot of people, um, like, oh, don't think ill of me or sort of, I'm not crazy, this kind of stuff. It's like you shouldn't have to justify yourself just because you want to make yourself feel better. If anything, it's a really positive thing, you know. So no, I think you did right there, and obviously the rest is history, especially when your psychiatrist or
yeah,
therapist actually said, why don't you go to college? That's so cool. It's a good story to be able to tell.
exactly. When I was a lot younger, I was in college, but I had an injury where I had to drop out. So, and that was not for drawing. I wish it was. Maybe I could have stayed in. Maybe I would have pushed myself even more to stay in back then. But it just wasn't going to be back then. I have a saying, if it's to be, it's to be. Like, if you see something on sale and you're like, oh, I'm going to go tomorrow and get that, and you go there and it's all gone, well, it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, I'm not superstitious necessarily, but to a degree, I probably am actually, but I kind of feel that way as well. What is what I'm saying?
Yeah. So we haven't talked about you.
Nah, they don't want to know about me.
Well, how about a
What would
little
you
bit?
like to know?
Well, let them know who you are, where you are.
Well, I'm in the northwest of England, not to be overly specific. You can probably tell by my accent, although it is ever so slightly mixed up. I think that's just with living in a couple of different places and being around a lot of different people. Um, if you haven't guessed by my atrociously sounding voice, I'm trans, but I've recently adopted the
Yeah.
attitude of fuck it, I don't care. Um, Currently 26 as of the making of this video. I've always been into film and media, so anything to do with cameras, editing, computers, things like that. It's right up my street. So, I mean, this podcast, for example, we haven't gone overly professional with it by all means, but, it's nice. It's a little bit of practice, isn't it? You get to play with all your gear and, yeah, it's nice. Um, I don't know what else to say unless you have any questions. I'm on the spot.
I know it's not nice being on the spot, is it?
I know.
um, you came up with this idea. Well, we talk all the time, anyways. And
That's a reflection of my personality. I'll be doing one thing, and then the next minute something will come into my mind. Don't know why. Usually there isn't an actual reason, or if there is one, I haven't addressed it. And yeah, I just sort of said, Bill, do you want to do a podcast? And here we are, making an all new podcast channel, even.
yeah, well, to be honest, we've talked about doing something like this before, and it's never gone to fruition. So,
I know either something happens with you or me, or something in between, and yeah, it never happens. But now we're doing it. We're live. We're rocking and we are rolling.
Well, technically, we're not alive. Well, we're alive in the sense that we're breathing, but that's about it.
Yeah, and even that's questionable. Sometimes when you get those strange pains in your chest. Oh, wait, no, I'm joking.
No, no, no. You're having a bad day when you wake up and you take your breath and you go, "Damn it!"
Like there's somebody sitting on your lungs.
Right. So I'm trying to think what I want to ask. Um, I know this is supposed to be for people out
We
on
can talk
the.
about anything. Sorry, just adding that in there. We can talk about anything. It doesn't matter. I'm sure they'll like it. It's an ensemble of topics.
Oh,
Is that
okay.
a bad word to use?
No, no. Okay. Let's just slide it a little personal. You got into
All
a
right.
little personal with me, which is fine. No problem.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
How long have you been trans?
I mean, I've been trans forever, but when I've fully realised it, I think I'd probably just about left school, which is it's just gone 10 years.
And it must have been a pretty rocky ride.
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, medically speaking, not so much in the more personal and physical sense, but certainly medically speaking, it was difficult to get the ball rolling. I actually visited a doctor and told them everything because I was at the brink of just like, you know, I was like at the end of my tether.
Yeah.
So when I told this particular doctor, it was as though they didn't really want to action what I told them. And they told me, I think this was either 2017 or 2018. So I'd waited quite a while until I said something at that point. And they said something along the lines of, come back in a few months and I'll have written you up a referral to a gender service. And from there, they can take over, assess you, get you diagnosed, and all that kind of stuff. And then they can talk about hormones, and then years down the line, you can talk about surgery, all that kind of good stuff. So I went back, and it was another doctor that I saw, and I actually felt kind of sorry for this guy because I don't think it was his first day, but it was like his first week or something. He was like a trainee, and when I told him, it was difficult enough having to say it all again. Yeah, as soon as I told him, he was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry about this, but do you mind if I just go and get a colleague who's actually better trained than me just to understand what to do?" I was like, "Oh God, I'm sorry about this, but yeah, do what you have to do." So this other person came in and they said, "Listen, I've been looking through the records at the clinic here, and well, I say clinic, the doctor's place, the surgery, and it doesn't look like anything has been put on the record. So like you're telling us as if some other doctor knows all about it. They haven't saved anything." I was like, "Oh shit!" So that referral didn't exist. So yeah, it took a really long time for things to get going properly. Fast forward to about 2019, I think it was, because I remember where I was working. I was working at the DWP, and they were in Manchester. I don't know whether it's still there. It's kind of hidden away. You're not really supposed to reveal the location, but it was near Victoria Station, if anybody knows it. Um, and I got this call when I was on a break, and it was from the Leeds Gender Clinic. So we got all set up with them. Can't really remember what was said because everything was a bit of a whirlwind at that point. Didn't hear anything for ages. So I thought, okay, this is just how it is being trans, I guess, but no problem. Can't complain because some people are much, worse off. COVID happened. No longer worked at a DWP because I actually got fired from there. It's a funny story. Well, it isn't funny, but um, when COVID happened, things just like took a turn. I don't really know what it was, whether it was being in the house constantly or whatever. But yeah, I think it was like February, March, so a little bit before the actual lockdown came around. Me and my partner Matt, we got together, but we were just talking online. So it was like just going back and forth, conversations, video calls, etc. And it got to around the summertime, and I was like, right, I can't actually take this anymore. Just like being cooped up in my room, staying there, like hiding from the world. And at the time, my family weren't the most accepting, and that's an understatement. So what happened was I literally just said, right, I'm going somewhere. Be probably a couple of weeks. I did intend on going back, but as soon as I came
So,
to Matt's house,
what was I going to say? You can bleep that out. No.
yeah, it's all right.
No. So you were mentally set before you went into any kind of a physical, looking physically.
Oh yeah, because it had been on my mind for that long, and I'd done like so much research, and to myself, not necessarily in the eyes of society or the rest of the world. You know, to myself, I was like, I know what's gonna happen. Like, I can, you know, I don't know how to say that bit, but
You can read the writing
yeah,
on the wall.
uh huh. So yeah, I came to Matt's, and I was just like, it was like the first time I was publicly, myself. Maybe not the first time, but the first time like properly being seen by everybody.
Right.
And yeah, it was like pretty scary and daunting and that, but it had to be done because in my mind at that point I was thinking, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to be able to do it, and something bad is going to happen to me because I had tried before, and unsucceeded. So yeah, it just went really well from there. Like I said, I intended to go back, and I just never did. It was actually Matt's mum, and she ended up just saying, "Why don't you stay here?" I was like, "What? Like forever?" She was like, "Yeah, we like you. We've been talking to you for ages. We've met you now. You're really, really nice. We get along." I was like, "Okay." So then I got myself an unenrolled deed poll, changed my name, told everybody, even though it was difficult, all my family and stuff, and yeah, the rest is history, and I've never looked back. So um, I don't think they want to hear any more of the story. There is a bit more to it, but yeah, that was like 4 going on 5 years.
How long have you done architect? Let's talk about that. You do architect here and there. How long?
So when I was either 14 or 15, we were ready for moving into a new high school. I really liked the look of it, and it was like pretty big and all that kind of stuff. So I got in touch with my headmaster, the principal of the school. I said, "Who's designed it? I'm keen to like see what else they've done, see if I can speak to them." And he got back to me and said, like, "Listen, do you want to do like an early work experience?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, that'd be brilliant." So he said, "Listen, there's the number. Call it. Just tell them who you are. I've already spoken with them. They're expecting you, and just see what happens." So I did. When I got home on that day, I called him. And funnily enough, the guy I was supposed to speak to wasn't even in. I was like, "Oh, never mind." But I spoke to somebody anyway. I think it was like a receptionist. She was lovely. She left a message, and then Dave, he was called Dave Wood. He contacted me. I think he contacted me like a week later or something. He said like, "Yeah, if you want to come in for work experience, come in on certain days or whatever." So I ended up doing a week, no school, just going to the office and doing architect stuff. It was really interesting because like we weren't just sat in the office, looking at building plans, looking at like client requirements, things like that. Um, it was like there was a physical sense to it as well. We ended up walking around a building site. I had a little bit of an involvement in one of their designs, and it was really good. It got to the point where the official work experiences were happening for the rest of the school. I don't know whether they do that in America, but yeah, it got to the official point. 'Cause before any of this, like, I wasn't supposed to say much. But of course, being at that age, I did. um, oh yeah, I think. Do you know what though? Kind of a negative thing. I think it made me a bit arrogant for a while.
Oh,
Like, a little bit. Oh, I got to do this. That. But anyway, um, so yeah, the year after, it was in the summer of about 2013, and I went back, and it was like it was so natural, because I recognised most, if not all, of the staff at the office. We did really similar work, but this time there were more people like my age. There were two people, three including me, who were doing the same thing this time. So that like mixed up the experience a little bit. I guess because it was a bit more official. And we did more of the same, really. But this time they put the pressure on and they tested us on presentation skills. So we had to stand up in front of fully qualified architects and present our designs and talk the architects through what everything was, why it was done the way it was, etc. And I really enjoyed it. Ever since then, I had this love for how it. I don't know how it feels when you design a building. Obviously, you can't really do it officially without a license, but yeah, I've done a couple of small projects on the Hush,
Hmm.
and I just love it. There's a certain feel to it. I guess it's kind of like expression. You know, when you do art, you create something really, really cool,
Right.
and you're like, "Oh, I'm proud of this." You know, I feel like that. So I've used like just various softwares and stuff like that over the years, and got better at like drawing and stuff. Although drawing isn't as it's not as used because of the digital stuff.
Right.
But yeah,
Over,
but like
I was
sorry,
going to
go on.
say, over here, we have vocational schools. And if someone wants to pick a trade, they would go to it and they would do uh, regular studies for 1 week and then shop studies for another. And then near the end, they get to actually go out and do like a small apprenticeship. And then they graduate. And most of the time, the person they do the apprenticeship with will hire them.
Right, okay. What age are they when they do that? Sorry.
Well, I'm trying to think. When is ninth grade? Ninth grade is like middle school or the end of the middle school. So I want to say 14, 15, around the same age you are.
Okay, yeah. Oh, we're rocking and rolling, ladies and
Mm,
gentlemen. We are not drunk, but we keep losing each other.
yeah.
I'm sure that was an Eminem song. No, it wasn't. Anyway, I don't think they can do an apprenticeship so young here. I could be wrong,
Well, by the time
but I know that.
they're doing that, they're like 2, 3 years older.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So it's probably similar at least. Maybe even just barring a year or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about drawing, and when
Drawing, was that?
yeah, well, with the architect and how now it's computerized and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, a lot of the work I've seen and even done myself was entirely done using digital software, using on a PC. There are bits where you can draw yourself, like on pen and paper and stuff like that, but mainly, it is the computer.
Yeah, we have, of course, there's graphic imaging, um, digital drawing now, digital artists. But
Yeah,
the one thing that if I gave anyone any advice about um, going to college, if you draw and you draw really good and you want to go, but be prepared. Fine art is not just about drawing. It blew my mind. There's like 3D, ceramics, 2D, sculpture, and I fell in love with 3D, which is the prereq for sculpture. And so I went into
wow.
sculpture, and now in my last semester, I'm going into sculpture too. So you can find a new niche sometimes when you go in for one thing or thinking one thing, and then you find out all this other stuff that goes with it. It's crazy. I had a professor who turned to me and said to me, she said, "Bill, you're a 3D artist. You make things with your hands, and it comes out nice." And so,
Can I get your permission, Bill, to put your work on screen? Just a couple of
Yeah.
examples, because I don't feel as though um, my mind has gone blank. Yeah, I don't feel as though the justice is being given. Like some of your work has been, I mean, all of it. Don't get me wrong, but you know, I've seen some of your work and it's so good.
Well,
I mean, for want of a better word, even like it's amazing what you've achieved. It's almost as if
thanks.
you've been
Um,
doing it all your life. I'm no professional, but I'm just saying, you know, it's excellent.
there are there are always some pieces that are better than others when you do it. Um, the good thing about ceramics is when you screw up, all you got to do is mush it back together and do it over.
So, did you ever have one of those romantic moments like on the film? Was it called
Ghost,
Ghost?
yeah.
You know, when they're there with the spinning wheel,
Um,
the potter's wheel.
no,
Sorry.
no ghost visited me, and if I had asked any of the girls there, I would have gotten a funny face, funny look, and then I would have been kicked out. So
Not even Whoopi Goldberg.
no, actually, my professor in there was kind of like Whoopi.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I mean, if you want to set the scene.
Do you know the other day you were telling me one of your, if you don't mind sharing, that is, we can always take this bit out if you don't want to share it, but one of your medicines was recalled because they found a little something something in there.
Oh,
What the hell was that?
oh yeah. That's I have no problem sharing that because it shows how wonderful I don't not the government but the pharmaceutical companies are over here. Um,
Uh-huh.
well, and insurance. Um, I got a letter that there was this one medicine. I'm not going to name it. Went on recall because a foreign object was found in it, and
Just
yeah, I'm
beautiful.
like, metal, glass, what? Rat's tail, what? So I don't know, but they turned around and they said that the pharmaceutical company put a recall out on November 13th. And I had just gotten the letter 2 days ago on Saturday
And for
or,
reference, that would have been the 26th of
or
December.
Friday. Yeah, I got it on Friday.
Wow.
And I'm like,
I
I could
mean, you know, if it was, yeah, and you know,
I could be taking it and not knowing.
exactly. And what if your address changed and you had that medicine from before? Or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know accidents happen. I know, but this is just it's happened before. Other shit has happened.
Yeah.
It's questionable. It's wrong.
Little
You
piece of
know.
metal or a little piece of wood embeds itself in my stomach somewheres or in my intestines and festers and becomes infected and but
Yeah.
that shows you how the pharmaceutical companies are. um,
Does the medical system over there need an intervention? Do you think?
uh, it's long past due for an intervention in my opinion.
You think it's beyond repair?
No, it's not beyond repair. Like everybody says, everybody knows, money talks. So,
But doesn't that scream that there's corruption?
oh, there is. We already know there is corruption. Look at, like, I'm a diabetic and I have to have insulin. And
Yeah.
for a while there, one of my insulins I had was shorted. I went without it for a month. And the reason it was shorted is because these doctors were letting patients get that medicine because it can also help you lose weight. So, yeah. So we had to wait. And if I remember right, Australia had to wait until around now. I haven't looked at it lately, But yeah, they were saying that they were going to be out it for that long. And the pharmaceutical companies, they don't care, because um, they pump out as much as they can to a degree, because the prices are so high. They don't care who gets it, who takes it, as long as they get their money.
It seems like a classic case of the people who need it have to suffer because the people who simply wanted it and didn't really need it abused it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's basically what happened. Um, over here, over here. Anyways, over here, like I said earlier, money does talk. I used to be in retail, and the figures. I was in the claims department at one time, and the figures that came across my station were astronomical. When you get a sale, okay, and they say 20% off, yeah, that's like 20% off of 300. So that's how high they jack the prices up, you know.
Yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, there's those out there that will turn around and jack the price up for a month or so, and then claim a sale and put the price right back to the original price. So they don't
Jesus.
lose anything at all. For a little while, they gain, and then all of a sudden, they're back down to normal. It's capitalism at its best.
I mean, they certainly have a way, don't they?
Oh yeah, definitely. And
Did you hear about Honda merging with Nissan and Mitsubishi?
no, I didn't.
I think it's mainly to do with electric cars. And this is an example of the world's governments being basically dickheads. I imagine this merge has come about um, because the car companies are feeling quite a lot of pressure. For each target or something that isn't met, the car company gets penalised. So they pay the government a certain fee per target lost or target not met, if that makes sense. And I'm just thinking it's a recipe for disaster. Nissan and Mitsubishi, in my opinion, they've lost interest already. Honda are kind of like, there's not too much exciting going on apart from a couple of cars here and there, but it's not exactly, a formula of great things.
Yeah,
When asked, the CEO of Honda, somebody said, "What do you think is the most exciting part about this merge?" And he said, "Oh well, that's a difficult one." That just shows that's the example that everybody needed to just know. Yeah, not even Honda are on board with this shit. But I mean, isn't it true? That isn't how to business. It's a mind fuck. It's
yeah,
ridiculous. You can't force people to buy cars they don't want or anything they don't want. You know what I mean? That's not how it works. And the are we going to talk about this? Are we really going to go into electric
oh no,
cars?
no, no, no. As the first um, podcast,
Uh-huh.
what I want to say is thank you for listening. If you liked it, please hit a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We're always interested in certain subjects, and if you have a subject you'd like us to discuss and something that you might like us to compare from the United States to the UK, let us know, and we can share our experiences in our own country and see how different they are or similar. So,
Yeah, that'd be really fun, actually. Well, as Bill says, thank you very much for watching. Show us some support or criticise. It's entirely up to you. Either way, thank you once again. It's been good. Our first ever podcast. How do you feel?
actually, I feel pretty good. It was comfortable. I like, yeah, I like talking.